Then I'm very happy to introduce our next speaker. This will be Dr. Arnav Kumar Ruchoduri. I hope the pronunciation is okay. And please go on and show us your slides.
Very good evening to everyone. I will be sharing my slides. The topic for my today's presentation is spectrum of histopathological lesions of oral cavity in a tertiary care hospital in the Malwa belt, that is our region, with special emphasis to oral squamous cell carcinomas. Introduction. India is the third largest producer of tobacco worldwide and ranks second in consumption according to the Global Adult Tobacco Survey report, with Punjab being ranking among the least common user of tobacco. Tobacco chewing in any form has been associated with pathological lesions, both benign as well as malignant. The majority of oral cavity lesions are benign, with commonest being mucus retention cyst, leukoplakia, and inflammatory conditions. Oral malignancy represents the third most common form of malignancy in the developing countries. Amongst the neoplastic lesions, squamous cell carcinoma was the most common pathology that we saw here. Squamous cell carcinoma constituted 80 to 90% of all the malignant lesions of the oral cavity. Different sites of the oral cavity have different propensity for different types of lesion. The present study was conducted to study the spectrum of oral cavity lesions. Coming to materials and method, a prospective study of 322 specimens were studied in the Department of Pathology over a period of 1 year. Specimens were received in 10% formalin in the Department of Histopathology of Arish University from Department of ENT and Dental Surgery. After standardized processing into paraffin embedded sections, hematoxylin and eosin stained slides were prepared for diagnosis under the light microscopy. Results. Of the 322 cases studied, non-neoplastic lesions constituted the major bulk with 60.8%, while neoplastic lesions constituted 36% of all the cases. Among the neoplastic lesions, benign lesions constituted 51%, while malignant neoplasm represented 48.2% of all the neoplastic lesions, with benign to malignant ratio of 1.07:1. And the age ranged between 5 years to 85 years, with a mean age of 47 years. Male constituted the majority, around 60%, while female comprised of 37.2%, with male is to female ratio of 1.6:1. While it significantly changed in cases of malignancy, it became 2.7:1. Tongue was the most commonly affected site, constituting 154 cases, that is around 49% of all the cases, followed by buccal mucosa 17.7%, lip 16.4%, and minor salivary glands 4.8%. This table shows the different distribution of the site-wise distribution of the oral cavity lesions, with tongue being most common, followed by buccal mucosa, lip, and minor salivary glands, and floor of mouth. Histopathologically, mucus retention cyst was the most common non-neoplastic lesion, comprising of 37.2%, followed by leukoplakia around 31%. Among the benign neoplastic lesions, squamous papilloma was most common, comprising of 43 cases, thereby constituting 71% of all the benign neoplastic lesions. Among the malignant neoplastic lesions, squamous cell carcinoma was the most common, amounting to 75% of all the malignant oral cavity lesions. Poorly differentiated squamous cell carcinoma was most common, with the histological grading constituting 45% of all the SCCs, followed by moderately differentiated 33.3%, and well differentiated only 21.4%. The details are being given in the next tables. Here we can see the most common is mucus retention cyst, 73 cases, followed by leukoplakia 61 and dysplasia 16. Here we have divided this table into benign neoplasms and malignant neoplasms. In the benign, the total number was 60, and this picture shows the squamous cell carcinoma poorly differentiated variant with bizarre hyperchromatic neoplastic squamous cells having high grade of nuclear pleomorphism. This is the slide of the well differentiated squamous cell carcinoma showing well-formed keratin pearls. This is the case of mucoepidermoid carcinoma that we saw in the minor salivary glands, showing the squamoid cells along with foamy cells and mucin pools. This is the Elshin blue slide, 100x magnification. This is also the mucoepidermal showing the squamous cells. This is the PLGA 3 cases we found in the minor salivary glands, showing the well circumscribed infiltrating tumor infiltrating into the residual salivary gland tissue and the connective tissues. This slide shows a case of a ameloblastoma exhibiting the basaloid follicular appearance with central portion composed of loose stellate reticulum. Coming to discussion, this prospective study was done to assess the distribution of oral cavity lesions among the biopsy specimens. The oral cavity includes the lip, hard palate, lower alveolar ridge, anterior two-thirds of the tongue, sublingual regions, and various parts, the retromolar trigone, and the oropharynx and nasopharynx. According to the Cancer Statistics 2020, a report from the National Cancer Registry Program in India, lip and oral cavity cancer have been ranked 12th most common cancer in Asia and ranked 8th among all the cancer in men, with an estimated cases of around 190,000 in this year. The standard incidence rate in Asia is 3.8, and an estimated of 97,000 deaths have already occurred in Asia due to lip and oral cavity cancers, with the age standardized mortality rate of 2.2. It is the second most common cancer among men in Southeast Asia and Central Asia, with an age standardized incidence of 9.9 and 5-year prevalence of 12.1%. The eastern and the western part of the Asia have low incidence rates. Oral lesions have caused a wide range of factors such as aging, trauma, infection, neoplasia, systemic diseases, chemical and thermal agents, and especially eating habits such as tobacco, betel nut, and alcohol. These includes a variety of lesions comprising of benign lesions such as papillomas, retention cysts, pre-malignant conditions, leukoplakia, malignant lesions, as well as oral squamous cell carcinomas and minor salivary gland tumors. In our study, the age ranged from 5 to 85 years. This was in concordance with the studies conducted elsewhere also. In our study, the oral mucosal lesions were more frequently seen in females, which was similar to this study. We also found that the malignant lesions were more common in males with a male is to female ratio of 2.7:1. The peak incidence of malignant lesions were seen in the age group of 5th decade, followed by the 7th decade. Only a single case was seen in young patient. In our study, the benign neoplastic lesions accounted for 60 cases, that is 51.7%, while malignant was 48.2%. Malignant neoplastic lesions were more common in males. According to the site of development of the oral cavity lesions, the most common site was tongue, and squamous cell carcinomas amounting to 57.1%. The cases confirmed as squamous cell carcinoma were further graded according to the Anaroth grading system, Broders and Brines, from well-differentiated to undifferentiated tumors according to the Anaroth grading system. AC Broder initiated the first quantitative grading system of the cancer of lip. It was suggested that the tumor be graded according to the differentiation of the tumor cells and their keratinization. Then Broder graded it into 4 grades, grade 1, 2, 3, 4. One was well differentiated with 75 to 100% cells differentiated. Grade 2 was moderately differentiated with 50 to 75% of the cells differentiated, and grade 3 was poorly differentiated with only 25 to 50% differentiation, and grade 4 was anaplastic less than 25%. Our study showed squamous cell carcinoma present in grade 1 and 2 and 3, but there were no cases of grade 4, that is, there was no anaplastic grade. Next came the Jacobson multifactorial grading system that was based on the structure, differentiation, nuclear pleomorphism, mitosis, and staging of invasion based on this grading system. Again, Anaroth in 1987 used a new grading system based on the 3 parameters: nuclear pleomorphism, keratinization, and mitotic figures for the oral SCCs. The sum of all the scores were again grouped into 3 grades: grade 1, 2, and 3, with grade 1 having 6 to 12 score, grade 2 13 to 18 score, and grade 3 19 to 24 score. The results were then compared in the metastasizing and non-metastasizing groups. In 1992, Brine proposed a new deep invasive cell grading system based on the nuclear pleomorphism and keratinization based on the Anaroth grading system. the number of mitosis, and the stage of invasion was not used in the previous studies. Only the cells at the invasive margin of the tumor were graded. Again, the total sum of the scores were grouped as grade 1, 2, and 3. The results were again compared. Around 25 to 50% of the schwannomas occurring in the head and neck, with only 1% occurring in the oral cavity, most commonly seen in the tongue. Other sites of intraoral schwannomas are the hard palate, buccal mucosa, and lip. Our study included 2 cases of schwannoma, one occurring in the buccal mucosa and the second one occurring in the lower lip. Histopathologically, the tumor tissues were encapsulated and comprised of typical Antony A and Antony B areas. Coming to conclusion, from the present study, it was observed that the majority of the oral cavity lesions were benign in nature. However, malignant lesions were reported with greater frequency. In this belt, actually this area is a malignant belt because of the excessive use of the fertilizers, and because of this reason only we have conducted this study. Any mass lesion occurring in the oral cavity should be biopsied to rule out malignancy. Some mucosal fibrosis was observed in the younger age group, which is a known pre-malignant feature. Tuberculosis of the vestibule as a primary lesion is very rare, and schwannoma of the hard palate is also rare. And better efforts for increasing the awareness among the mass regarding the harmful effects of tobacco should be exercised. In our cases, we took history from the patient as well as the patient parties, but the main difficulty that we faced that the patients were all farmers and they were not so much educated, so they couldn't give us the whole history regarding their eating habits and their smoking habits, but most of them were non-smokers. None of our case had any special risk factor or any habit. It was consistent with the previous studies, whereby no major risk factor, smoking or drinking were present. The ability to control oral cavity malignancies depends on 2 cornerstones. One is your prevention, and the second being early diagnosis. Continuing educational campaigns are needed on the local, state, and national level in order to educate the public about the risk factors and the early signs and symptoms associated with these diseases. Individuals also need to be encouraged to seek regular professional oral examinations by a dentist or a physician. Finally, the healthcare workers must be encouraged to perform oral cavity examination as part of their regular regime and to be knowledgeable about the early signs of benign, pre-malignant, as well as malignant lesions of oral cavity. These are the references.
So thank you. For this very interesting and very fast presentation. However, very impressive and very impressive data. Are there any questions from the audience? Well, if there are no questions, I've got one question. Did you evaluate the P16 or HPV status in your oral cancer lesions?
So we took the HPV status of the patients, but P16 we couldn't do actually because all the farmers are not so financially stable, no, sir. The main thing is that because they use nitrate-based fertilizers, so we conducted this study based on that fertilizer thing only, because in our area, this is the main wheat producing area of India, Punjab. So the fertilizer uses is very excessive here, and mainly nitrate-based fertilizers are used, and the water content also has some amount of arsenic in it. So we are continuing this study. So we want to just rule out whether it is because of the fertilizer-based oral malignancies, or are these effects of heavy metal poisoning due to the prolonged use of these fertilizers.
Oh, thank you for this very interesting and very important factor, because this is a very supportive local specialty, and it's very interesting to hear from this the special things you have to keep in mind when you analyze your patients collective. Are there any,
Yes.
very well, we have another question. Were there any basaloid tumors in the study? Dr. Sophia is asking.
No, I didn't find any basaloid tumors actually.
Any other remarks, comments, questions?
Actually, I would just like to enhance on the basaloid tumor question. I was part of a study which dealt with a lot of basaloid tumors in the head of neck and base of tongue. And unfortunately, at that time, the role of P16 was not very, as we know, we have constraints in India to do the role of P16 in immunohistochemistry. But I think the characteristic histomorphology of these tumors can help. So I was just curious to know if Dr. Arnav had seen any of these tumors, especially in the rare areas that he mentioned in the arytenoid and in the base of the tongue.
No, ma'am. Actually, we didn't find any basaloid tumors, but we are conducting another separate study focusing on the minor salivary glands. So if I find anything, I will just let you know, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Very, very good data that you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.